Okay, good evening, everyone. Really great to see all of you. My name is Gail Schorsch, and I am the director of Bronx Eats, which is all about making healthy cooking and eating a community habit through hands-on food education. And I'm thrilled this evening to be partnering with plant-powered Metro New York to bring you Bronx Cooks Together. This is a series of culinary demonstrations featuring all Bronx chefs. So I'm really delighted that you're here, and I'm delighted myself to be here.
I'm Lianna Levine Reisner. I'm the network director of Plant Powered Metro New York. We promote our collective health empowerment by educating about the power of whole food, plant-based nutrition. This is an evidence-based approach to nutrition that can prevent, treat, and sometimes even reverse chronic illness, including heart disease, diabetes, cancers, and more. Bronx Cooks Together is going to help you explore the delicious flavors of plant-based cuisine prepared with minimal processed ingredients to show you how fun and easy it is to make health-promoting dishes at home with fresh ingredients.
So we hope you'll repeat what you learn here after class or later in the week. And you're obviously also free to try to cook along at home right now if you got the ingredients, but that is not required. If you didn't receive the recipes in advance, please use the chat option or email one of us to let us know, and we'll definitely make sure to get that to you. As we get started, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box, where you're from, what you hope to learn today. And as a reminder, please mute yourselves to minimize background noise throughout the program. We encourage you to ask questions through the chat box as the demo proceeds, and some of them we will be able to answer in real time, and those that we can't, we will try to get to at the end.
Great, and there was also one quick question. Where can we post the picture of our dishes? If you're cooking along, we will spotlight you at the end, so share with us as you are able. And I think you're allowed to share a file also here in the chat box. So if you want to eat it before we get to you, go ahead and share a picture. So now about our chef. Chef Jillian Mariscal is the founder and chef of Sabrosa Vegana. She was born and raised in the Lower East Side of New York, and at the age of 13 years old, Jillian, who faced rare tumors in her right leg, had to undergo multiple rounds of surgery, chemo, and radiation. While studying in biomedical informatics, she came across studies linking diet to gene mutations. This prompted her to finally go vegan in 2016. Sabrosa Vegana was created in 2017 with the purpose of feeding and educating communities to dispel myths concerning what a plant-based diet is and should taste like. With that, we are going to turn it over to Chef Jillian. I'm just going to mute some more lines here. Give me a sec. Okay, Chef Jillian, take it away.
Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for joining me today for our demo, the demo today on beans and sofrito. We're doing 2 in 1. And why I chose to do this, most importantly, we're in a pandemic. And as you can see, food went out off the shelves, left and right. But being already someone who was aware of food deserts and availability of food, I always was, when I first became vegan, realized, okay, let's figure out a way to have cheaper food. Everyone's saying veganism is cheap, especially when you don't use mock meats. So putting that to the test, dried beans last long. I mean, this is 1 pound of beans right here, and this will last a week for a family of 3, believe it or not. I mean, if you're eating it for dinner once a day for all 3 of you for the week. So that's like about $1 or $2 for the week for a family of 3, just for beans. Now, I have a whole bunch of these, so I was like, okay, I'm okay for beans for pandemic and rice. So I think the important thing to understand is canned beans have a lot of sodium. They don't, I mean, if you really want to avoid that type of high sodium type of food. And plus this lasts longer, and you can add your own sodium to it if you would like. I'm gonna add Himalayan salt today, but you don't even have to add salt to it. So I really felt like there was a lack of knowledge on how to cook dried beans. I mean, believe it or not, even me being Hispanic and I grew up in New York City, I wasn't really taught how to do pressurized beans till later. My grandmother was very used to using canned beans herself. After a certain age, she didn't use her pressure cooker after a while. But I decided to re-educate myself on how to use the pressure cooker. I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to do that today, because I feel it's really important. I actually started it a little bit ahead of time because it does take about a good 25 minutes and to pressurize once it starts boiling. So I'm going to go over some pressure cooker basics and how to use the dry beans. Then we're going to go, while this is still pressurizing, and then when we do pressure, we're going to do the sofrito that goes inside the sauce base. So sofrito is a type of base that's used in Spanish cooking all over Latin America, even not even just Latin, all around the world. There's different types of bases. All of them are different. So if you see mine here and you know someone else who has a different one, you make it your own. But this is the type of base that we use. And this is used for rice, for sauces, for meats, the mock meats, or, you know, what people used to use for regular, for other, you know, meats, and for sauces, especially for the beans. Woo! There we go. So there we have the pressure coming out now here. So I'll actually, before I go into the sofrito, I'm gonna go over some pressure cooker basics. I chose this T-fowl. It's called T-fowl. I'll send it to the chats after this is over. I'm gonna turn it over so you can see the brand. I chose this one because it's super safe. I don't know if you can see here this red type of button. It is a safety lock. So you see here, I could lift it up from here and it's not going anywhere. Pressure cookers are extremely dangerous if you don't read them correctly. I mean, they can pop up. You're literally putting pressurized in a small container here. So I always recommend that before you start pressurizing, read the instructions left and right, look up YouTube videos, and try to give yourself get comfortable with the equipment before you use it. I like this one because it's like a safety, like it's a no hassle, like you can't get it wrong. So I'm gonna take the camera and show you just a little bit of the top here, how it looks. I'm gonna zoom in here. So right now we have this pressurized. And how do I know it's pressurized? It's because of this red indicator. See this red indicator? And this is not even a button. It's not something I press or touch. It comes up on its own from the pressure that is rising up inside the pot. So as the pressure is rising, this will pop up. So right now I know not to open up the pressure cooker. It is fully pressurized right now. And once this comes up is the starting time in which we start the beans. So once this popped up about 10 minutes ago, I know I have about 15 more minutes before the beans are done, okay? That's important because it doesn't mean the minute you close it and start boiling it that it's done. It means that once the pressure has built to the point where this comes up is when you can start the timer on pressurizing your beans. Some people decide to use the slow cookers, and which is fine. I like to pressurize it because I'll soak the beans the night before. I'll put them in water where they're at like about 3 inches thick of water above the beans. Don't fill the water right to the bean line because the beans will soak up all that. And if you see that there's water missing at the night before you checking on your beans, that means that there should have been more water. They could have soaked up more water. You want to always add way more water than the beans. Give your beans space to breathe and move and absorb all that water. That's going to help you also digest the beans better. I know sometimes beans get a bad rap because people always say, oh, with the gas and this. I always say it's like your body has to adjust to the fiber that it is because beans are such high in fiber and protein. They're so good for you, but it's not used to eating them. So add yourself the beans as time goes on. Have some today, have some tomorrow. But what happens is sometimes we haven't had beans in a while. We'll eat beans like in one shot, and then we're like, okay, now I'm gassy. So beans have a bad rap, but it really is only because we have to really be eating it more consistently in our diet. So back again to the pressure cooker. This one here also has a release lock here. If you see this release lock. So this is gonna open up the can. So there's no way, before the old school pressure cookers used to have these type of the locks would release just by turning it. And sometimes that gets loose with the pressure. So this machine, I really like this model because it allows, it's already locked. There's no way that twisting it is gonna unlock it, okay? So that's just some pressure cooker basics. All of them are different. I, again, recommend you reading the instructions. There's YouTube, this company also has like a YouTube video on how to make sure you're reading the instructions correctly. And always make sure that you're standing away, because even the heat right now, I don't know if you can see the air releasing on its own. It's under, it's closed, but it's still going to release all the pressure that's supposed to come out right here. If I release this button, water will come through too. So you have to do it slowly. When it's time to turn it off, we're going to turn off the heat, give it a moment, and then slowly release the pressure. The water here can also be dangerous, so you also have to be careful of that back. But most importantly, you don't want this top to pop up. Don't touch any of the things until you see that red indicator go down. The red indicator is just a little button. When the pressure goes up, it pushes it up, and you'll see the indicator come up. When the pressure is down, it'll go back down again. So again, this one is like my favorite pressure. I wish I had a bigger one because, you know, I do a business. So I was like, I need this same exact one, just like this. But, you know, for a good starter pressure cooker, it has good handles. Like I said, it has this safety lock here that it doesn't twist to release. And this is also a really good safety mechanism here. So I recommend that. I think Amazon sells it. I think I also got it on like QVC or something like that, honestly. All right, so that's pressure cooking. And make sure you're soaking your beans at least 8 hours. I like to do it overnight. Give it as much time as you can. Change the water. If you're leaving it outside, some people like to leave it outside or in the fridge. I leave it outside and I'll change the water about once or twice, because leaving it outside, it will start to have like a bacterial smell. So me working in microbiology, don't worry, you're not going to get sick off that. You just want to change the water. And remember, you're going to pressure cook it. It's like autoclaving it. You're going to kill everything in there, and it's not really going to give a chance to breed anything. But make sure you are also, if you want to put it in the fridge, do that as well. So yes, changing the water, pressurizing. We started this I started it about, I would say 10 minutes ago. So I'm going to, after the sofrito is done, I'm going to release it, turn off the heat, release it slowly. If you release it too fast, the beans might burst in there. So you kind of want to make the beans whole, and we're still going to stew the beans after with the sauce and create the sauce with the beans. So, I mean, even if that does happen, it's not a big deal, but it's not, we want to see nice whole beans in our sauce, right? Okay, so on to the sofrito. Believe it or not, I didn't get the garlic. I had this cube garlic here. You see these cubes? Trader Joe's sells these cubed garlic. It comes like this frozen, and it's actually just pureed garlic in there with no preservatives, and absolutely no preservatives in there. So obviously you want to have your garlic fresh and throw it in there, but for time's sake, and I was like, all right, we're putting the garlic cubes today. Garlic is like one of the main staples in Spanish cooking, so don't hold me hostage just because I didn't put as much garlic as I normally put. All right, so we want to add all our garlic in there. This sofrito, we're literally just adding peppers, onion, garlic, and the main one, cilantro. Cilantro is such a great herb that I am obsessed with. Some people don't like it because you either love or hate it. I hear some people don't have the taste buds for it. They think it tastes like soap. But I'm absolutely in love with it. And this base I use, again, like I said, I use it for my sauces, for a lot of bases of the sauces, even for rice. I throw it in my yellow rice too to give it some more flavor. It doesn't change it. Even though this is green, we're not going to add so much to it where it changes it green. But we're going to add it to our sauce today for sure. So I added the garlic. Now I'm going to add some red and green peppers. I sometimes add just the green, but today I had red and green. I said, let me just add it for some color too. And we have our onion. So we're gonna add that, and we're gonna do this slowly because we wanna make sure it's well incorporated. So we're gonna add just a little bit at a time. And since because it's all going in the same place there, we just do a little bit there. We're gonna add our, this is already triple washed. Cilantro, add handfuls. Now, I'm literally gonna keep adding handfuls and handfuls and handfuls of cilantro because, like I said, I'm obsessed with it, and I feel it gives it that real richness, flavor I'm looking for in the sauce. Okay, I'm gonna add one more handful here. Okay. And then we're gonna add some filtered or distilled water just to get the blades so they won't, so they'll be able to turn and mix properly here. And let's start our first blending. I'm going to turn it on. One thing before I add, so when I went vegan, I didn't realize, and I was cooking way before I went vegan as well. I didn't realize I needed some tools in the kitchen. So I think investing in a good pressure cooker and blender are gonna help you create so many different sauces, bases, soups, and meals. This is a really good thing to have in the house. Now, not everyone can afford this type of blender. I had to even wait for it and do payment plans. They have those options available. Like I said, like QVC, I use them because they're payment plans and things like that. So I think investing in our health this way, remember, people say, oh, veganism is expensive, but if we have phones, we live in a world of technology. I don't like to put other things like earrings. I invested in these type of things. So having invested in these things like a mandolin, you know, there's tools to have now that I didn't even need before. I didn't even think about having those things before. But this is such a great thing to have because it'll blend really well. So let's put it on the blend for, I like to put it on a smoothie a little bit here. And I'm gonna start. And just a little bit so I can add more cilantro and more of the rest of the ingredients. I'm just gonna keep adding more and more so we get a nice smooth puree. Add some more cilantro.
Mira, Jillian. David, mira tu mamá.
Oh, you gotta put it on mute, Mom. That's my mother. That's so funny. All right, so here we're gonna put some more cilantro.
Mami, para verte a ti también.
Okay. And then we're gonna close it up and blend it again. Gonna add, there we go. Okay, it smells so good. It smells amazing right now. I really wish you could smell that. You smell everything in there at once. So we still want to get it. We don't want to see a lot of chunks in there. Sometimes people like to see chunks. I don't like to see too many chunks because I like a nice smooth sauce. So we're just going to keep adding until we finish our onions and our peppers. Adding some more cilantro, as I mentioned before.
Hey, Jillian, what would somebody do if they weren't a cilantro type? What would you recommend swapping it with?
I recommend using another herb, but it might change the sauce. I would then either just X out the cilantro, add more peppers, add more garlic, add more onions. The pepper and garlic and onions alone are going to give it still that flavor. And when we get to the spice profile here, that's really going to help as well. So this is just for that a little bit like, oh, like that hint. You know what I'm saying? And this is a lot too. I'm not going to pour this whole thing in there. We're just literally putting about like maybe one of these and a half of the sofrito into the sauce. So I recommend then really highlighting more of the flavors that you like in the spice profile or the other ingredients that were used here. Okay, because pepper's still good too. I sometimes even will have chopped peppers and onions along with it. So if you have a little sofrito for the sauce part and for chunks of peppers and onions within the sauce. So I'm gonna add more here. I think this should be the last of it. But I do, it smells amazing. But I do miss my garlic. I do miss more garlic. I would have put like 2 more whole cloves of garlic in there. All right, let's keep blending this. Exactly, perfect. Okay. So I put it on the smoothie blend. On the this one has different settings. So I put it on smoothie blend. I wouldn't put it on puree too much because puree might leave chunks. But as you can see, I'm gonna see if you can see it here. It's pretty smooth. There is no. There's no visible chunks. It's thick, but not visibly chunky. You don't see pieces like this in there. This is just on the edge here, but you don't see pieces like this inside. You want to see it where it looks like it's a thick, almost like a soup, like a soup. Okay, so that's how we want to see our sofrito. Store this in the freezer or fridge. I use it so much, I don't store it in the freezer anymore because I use it almost every day for the business. But if you want to freeze this is totally freezable. Some people put it in ice cubes. This is old school style. Put it in ice cubes, in an ice cube tray, and then when you're ready to make the sauces, you're like popping 2 ice cubes of the sofrito in the sauce. Yes, so someone said they were about to ask on how to store it. Store it in the fridge what I would do is store some in the fridge for fast use if you want to use it daily and play around with it. You could even use it for salads and add salt and things like that. Or you put it in the freezer. It's harder when you put the whole thing in the freezer to defrost it when you just want a little bit. So if you configure, like, I don't know if people even use ice cube trays anymore, but if you want to put it in a type of cube tray, that it's easier to just take portions out frozen and put it in the sauce. Okay, so we're going to set this aside now because this is done. And now we're going to concentrate on our pressure cooker here. So it's about ready. It's 6:25. I started this around 5:48. I started heating it up. And because we're using this little bad boy here, it took a little long for it to get even pressurized. Remember, putting it on and closing it up doesn't start the time that I set there for the beans. Pressurizing it, waiting till the pressure indicator has popped up. That's when you want to start your timer for 18 to 25 minutes, even 30 minutes sometimes, depending on the size of the beans. So, you know, red beans come like this. Sometimes actually kidney beans come like that. You get the little smaller beans. So beans come in different size and quantity. 18 to 25 minutes, I give it around that time. So what I'm going to do is turn it off. And I'm going to move slowly to the side, right? And release it slowly, okay? That's not even fully open. That was not even fully open. This is just a little bit. And you can see some of the water coming out, okay? So this is hot. I mean, I'm used to touching hot things, so don't see my hands near it. But this is hot. You don't want to put your face near it. This and still safe to be around it because remember, it's still closed. The locking mechanism is still closed. The pressure is still up. So we're going to slowly release the pressure. And as releasing slowly and slowly, we're going to wait till the indicator comes down. Don't open it until the indicator is all the way down. That's when you know that the canister is no longer pressurized. While that's happening, I'm going to talk about spices because that is really what's going to make this thing work well. I put here all the different types of spices we have. We have bay leaves, oregano. I have some pink Himalayan salt. So that is optional, of course. I'll always put it last. I already know how much I use for this type. We have onion powder and we have turmeric, which is anti-inflammatory. We have garlic. We have black pepper. And my favorite here to make that sauce really go is the cumin. Now, a lot of Spanish culture is used to using adobo. And adobo has some of these, but I don't really recommend using prefabricated sauce spice containers because they add extra sodium, and some of them even have MSG for extra flavoring. I have no idea why Goya has MSG in a lot of their products. It's sad that I had no idea, but they do. So I try to avoid that. You can use any type of salt you'd like. I just happen to use that type of salt because I feel like it has more minerals, or I don't know. It's a nice salt. But I really would recommend that as you are playing with plant-based foods, that you get your spice cabinet going, because spices is really what everyone uses. Even people who eat meat, I always tell them, you're not eating it raw. You're not really meant to eat it because now you're adding all these wonderful vegan spices to your meat. So really, the spices carry everything. And so with adobo, they just have onion powder, garlic powder, salt, and a little turmeric. So we're just skipping that and we're adding our own profile to that. So if you can see, actually, you can hear it, it's starting to go down. And I'm going to release it now all the way. And it's already going down slowly. But the indicator is still water. See? The indicator is still up. Okay, so you see how we have it all the way open now. Also, when you're filling this up, when this has beans in it, don't put the salt inside your pressure cooker yet. Don't put the spices in it yet. Try to do it as plain as possible because the salt particles, the rocks of the spices and stuff, will be inside the canister going like this, and it can abrade the inside. So it's done. You see here, the indicator is down. I'm going to show you right now how it looks. Indicator is down. You see now it was all the way to the top, and now it's down. Now we can safely open it. We're going to press it. See how it releases the lock and open. Okay, well, now it got foggy, but you see now it's safe to open. So always just check on that indicator. Like I said, check the instructions. This is a dangerous type of, like all things, like blenders, of course, are dangerous too. Cooking is dangerous, cooking in general, but pressure cookers are a whole nother level. I've seen people starve. So, but it's so important. It's so important. I think just passing down the knowledge to one another on how to use these tools can be safe, just as using a blender is safe. Obviously, we know how to use blenders now. Don't put our hands, right? So utilizing these type of things and keep telling people how to do it is going to help minimize accidents. So our beans are done. I'm going to use this since we're going to still be using the same. And we can do the testing of the bean here. Take one. And we're going to smash it and see how. Yep, look how quick that was. See, we're ready to go. These are done, okay? But it was a whole bean there. It wasn't like split in half too much. So now we have our base of beans, okay? There's liquid in there, leave that liquid. We're not draining any of that water. Again, when I put the water in here, I put the beans and I put about 2 inches of water in there. There's a max line within this pot. Do not fill the water past the max line because it will overpressure. The pressure will have more water popping out. You saw how a little water was coming out? That's nothing compared to if you put over the max line. That'll be hot water coming out from the top. So please be careful when you are filling up your beans. Start small. Start with just a little bit of beans and add water just about 2 inches over the bean line, okay? So now we're gonna turn back on the stove here so we can start our sauce base. So we can start the sauce with it. Now we're doing the stewed part. So now we pressurize the dried beef, soaked it overnight. Now we're going on to making the stew. Okay, is there any questions? Any more questions as we keep going?
There are some. Go ahead and keep going, Jillian. We'll get to them at the end.
Okay, no problem. So we have here this base. It's still pretty hot. Now I'd like to, there's no particular order because it's gonna sit there and stew for just about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how much time you have to, because this is gonna be fast now. Remember, now this is like when you get the can and you're throwing it in there, you're just throwing the ingredients. This is already skipping that. We have the beans already cooked all the way through. The beans are really, you can actually use these beans in a salad. You can drain the water, put it in a salad. You can use these beans for anything. But now we're gonna leave the water in here and add the rest of the bases and make it into a stew. So let's start with the sofrito. I'm gonna add about, I think this is measured to 4 ounces. Yes, 4 ounces. This is 4 ounces. And because I'm obsessed with it, I'm gonna put half of another one. Okay. Okay, so now we have our beans in there. And now it looks kind of green, but don't worry. Don't worry, that's gonna change as we're adding our tomato sauce. Now, people like to use tomato paste. I like my beans very saucy because I love it with rice or quinoa. Quinoa is really great. I even put it in couscous. You can take, what I do like, sometimes I take a banana, sweet plantain, you put it in the oven and then you stuff it or you open it after it's cooked and you put couscous and beans, and I like the sauce of the beans all over it with the sweet plantain. So I use this much sauce. You don't have to use this much sauce, but I'm putting 2 cups. So we put the tomato sauce. This is plain as you can get tomato sauce. Try not to get tomato sauce with a lot of preservatives. There are out there. You just have to kind of find them. Okay, so now the sauce is more brown with the, see, it's not green. So we're mixing it here with the sofrito, and we have the sauce. Now we're gonna add the spices. Now I have 2 bay leaves here, but start with 1 because bay leaves are very strong, especially when you stew them. So I have a big and a small one. I'm gonna add the big one first and see how that goes. If I feel like it could use a little help, I'm gonna add the second one. So I'm gonna put this one to the side for now. And then I'm going to add the spice profile. So one more time, we have the cumin, the black pepper, the garlic, the turmeric, the onion, the salt, and the oregano. And we're gonna pour all that in there. Make sure we have all our spices.
Jillian, there was a question. What kind of sauce do you use? What brands do you like?
Believe it or not, I'm obsessed with Trader Joe's. Because I feel like they really try hard as a company to minimize preservatives and things like that. And it's really basic and it's really affordable as well. It's like $1.79. They do come with like garlic and stuff in it, but you can see the chunks. They're not like powdered garlic. They're actually, it's real garlic and real onion inside of it. But these are, because I also shop at Restaurant Depot for, the business. These are what we provide there too. They have these regular base sauces. But when I'm not cooking I really love Trader Joe's. So try to get the sauces too. It's okay to get chunky sauce. That's also what I'm trying to get to. So if you have there are some sauce brands that are really basic, but sometimes they're more expensive. But Trader Joe's has basic ones, and they're flavoring with basil as well. You can add the basil one in there. Or the garlic one. There's 2 types that I really like to get from there. and you can see the chunks of the flavoring. It's not like, oh, it has salt and garlic, but you don't see it in there. You want to see your vegetables, your whole foods, right? So that's the type I use. Now I have the sauces in here and it's just stirring. It smells great. And I do want to taste test it. Let's see if I have something nearby to taste it. It is just going for my family after this, but it's always good to taste test. And I am going to raise this a little bit higher so we get a little oil. The oil is going to be, honestly, because it's already cooked, we're just boiling to infuse all of these flavors. You want to activate all these spices that we just put in there, especially if you want that to kind of cook a little bit through to release those essence. And then also the sofrito as well. It's like you're cooking the sofrito here. And also, yeah, so when we cook with this as well, we sometimes they fry it with oil. We're not using oil, we don't need to use oil. Even when it's for rice and stuff, you would add water to kind of cook the sofrito in the pan. So oil is just really it's just really cooking things, but water will do the same effect with that. So we're just re-cooking the sofrito. So I think in another dish that I do, I just put the sofrito and I put a little water, and you'll see it start bubbling. You're like, okay, it's cooking. Then I add the bay leaf in there too. So it's like acting like the oil, but you're just literally, but keep an eye on it because water evaporates. That's why people use oil, because it doesn't evaporate. So you try to add just enough water where you're keeping an eye on it so it's not evaporating. So I'm saying about the sofrito that when we added these ingredients, we really want to cook the sofrito in there. It's raw right here, but when we're putting it in here, we're cooking it. And when you want to use this in another dish that people usually saute with oil, you don't need to use oil. You can use water, but just keep an eye on it because the surface area of a saucepan will make the water evaporate faster. So what I do is I have the sauce, the large pan when I'm sauteing. I'll add the sofrito first with a little water added to it, and you'll let it sizzle. So you're kind of like you're like stir frying the sauce, the sofrito, adding the bay leaf in there. The only thing, the difference why people use oil is because it doesn't evaporate, but the water will. So it's okay. You can still use water. Just keep an eye on it, and so it doesn't burn. So you're not burning the sofrito before you're adding the other ingredients. What I do is I'll add the sofrito, put water, cook it real fast with the bay leaf, and then I'll add the already diced peppers, onions, and garlic, and now it's all cooking together and releasing the juices, and you don't need any other oils or things like that. I think we're just trying to change cultural norms that were done because I don't know, necessity at the time and just the lack of knowledge on it. Now we don't need to add so much oil at all. I don't even need to add oil at all to this, and I'm really happy so because heart disease, high blood pressure, a lot of these things really do affect us. So now I'm starting to smell it. It smells really great. That one bay leaf was perfect because it was really big. So remember, bay leaves come in different sizes. So if you see a small one, you can add two. If you have a good size one, just add one bay leaf. And now we see our sauce is coming along. Also, you can see the sauce a little better here. So we're just stirring along. I do want to taste. That's good. Yeah, it's perfect. I mean, I've been doing this so many times I already can tell. So we have our sauce base here. Like I said, you can add this to any, I like quinoa, any colored quinoa, brown rice. I like to use black rice these days as well. Forbidden rice, it's also called. Couscous. I mean, this has a sauce now. So anything that you want to add sauce to it. I even like to, like I said, the sweet plantain, and then stuff it with the sauce and the couscous. That was one of my favorite things I like to add. add it to salad. You can even just take a little bit of the cooked beans and take a little sauce out and add it to a salad. Have fun with it. Now this is a base that you can use. And you see how much, I don't know if you can notice, but this one packet of dried beans just created this whole pot. Now, I don't know about you, but in one sitting, we're just like pouring like 2-3 spoonfuls. So this is gonna last the whole week. Imagine, this only costs the most $2-3 for the week for 3 people. And this provides a lot of protein and fiber and nutrients you need. So it really is more affordable to learn to cook with dried beans. It'll last you longer. In a pandemic, and not a pandemic, trying to save money, just trying to be affordable, trying to be wise with money, and always have a little dried beans handy. When this whole thing happened and shelves were cleared, they cleared the cans. Cans were gone. And not many people cleared the dried beans until later, because out of necessity. But I'm pretty sure it was not cleared because, you know, we don't have the knowledge to cook them. Sometimes people they just cook them for hours on the stove. And who wants to do hours on the stove when it's 25 to 30 minutes on a pressure cooker? Just doing that alone really cuts time, especially when you have family to feed and things like that.
So Jillian, there are a few questions that have come up.
Yes.
I just don't want to leave those out. So one question is there a preferred kind of oregano that you like to use?
Just the dried. I mean, even having the whole fresh one is great. Just don't use the stems. I sometimes peel off the leaves of the stems. Off the stem, and if you do want to use the stem, just wrap it up and throw it in there, and then take it out afterwards if you want to use the whole oregano. Dried oregano I use because it's just it lasts longer in the fridge, you know, I mean in the cabinet.
Yeah. And do you have somebody asked, does pressure cooking food affect the nutrition of the food?
No, I believe it actually helps you to digest it better, because I was told that if you do not cook beans thoroughly enough, it actually can do more damage to you.
Uh-huh. So this is my question. It sounds like your experience with the pressure cooker really, and knowing when it's done, is kind of just from doing it a lot. I mean, it sounds like you can't, you know, you were talking about the size of the bean, and sometimes it's a little longer, sometimes it's a little less, and that comes from just experience. Is that right? Is that accurate?
Yes, but the base time is usually 18 minutes. Like this came with the TFL came with a book where it tells you like the different beans and cooking times, and they all really range from 18 to 20. But I found for 1 pound of beans, it's 25 of kidney beans. So as you play along with it too, I also tell people, you know, depending on where you live, pressurizing and boiling water is gonna change because of, oh my God, the pressure of where you live, yeah, boiling.
So can you talk about what happens, for example, if you undercook or overcook, or you know, turn the pressure cooker down before the beans are really ready? Is there a way can you turn it back on? Do you just have to sort of call it a day?
No, so if you see, oh, they're still hard, you restart it again and give it another 5 to 10 minutes. I start saying like 10 minutes. So what I do is if I'm like, oh, I thought that maybe these were gonna be done in 18 minutes, or I forgot, like if I didn't start the timer, I will, and I, you know, after I unpressurized it, turned it off, and it's like this, for example, I'll close it back again and make sure it's secure, and turn it back on, and kind of wait till the pressure comes back up again, and then start the 10 minutes.
And do you have to add more water if you're going to do that?
Usually not, but if you did not add enough, that's the time to check to see if you did or not. So you want to make sure there's always about 1 inch of water over the bean line. If you feel like after you checked and they're still hard and the water is up to the same where the beans are, add a little bit more water, so it gives it that time, that enough space in there to actually move around and pressure.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem.
We had another question. You used powdered garlic and onion powder. Is that what you had put in?
Yes.
Okay, and can you use minced fresh garlic and onion as
Yeah.
well?
Yes. Earlier I said along with the sofrito, because you're adding, these are all your fresh ingredients. If you want to do those minced, you can put it in here to make the sauce smoother, or you can have a chunky sauce and add those great, you could do this along with chunks of the peppers, the onions. Now it will take a little longer because you really want to make it the stew process. You want to release all that. So I actually recommend, if you're gonna do the onions are fine. That'll release a lot of that essence. But the garlic, we mash it. We use a pistol. I think they call it pistol. And then you just mash the garlic and throw it in, and you're gonna get all that release of flavors in there. So you can definitely use all fresh ingredients in there. You just gotta really make sure that you let that simmer and stuff like that, because when you do spices, you already have it's already been dried and things like that. But definitely you can use fresh, most definitely. I actually like to do diced peppers and onions and throw it in there as well when I want to have a lot of chunks in my sauce.
A few more questions.
Yeah.
Can you use an Instapot?
I heard you can. I don't know how long, if it'll take the same amount. I decided not to get one because I felt like in case the electricity ever went out, this is something I could always put on something. I'm always thinking about, like, what if this happens, or what if that happens, and it breaks. So you can use it. I've seen it done. Just make sure that the bean can be cooked the way that it's smashed like this. I don't know the timing if it works the same way with the pressurizing. But yes, you can definitely use those. I believe they have settings for beans.
Okay, thank you. And so somebody wrote, I've been trying to stop using as much oil and salt as I used to, but my food is coming out very bland. And do you have any feedback about how to make food tasty without using salt and oil?
So the oil is not going to give you as much flavoring. But definitely I would say go crazy with herbs. I love herbs. It's really herbs and doing this, of taking the time to make a really good, yeah, someone said it takes more time to cook the beans in the Instant Pot. Yeah, that's what I heard as well. So when we're doing the sofrito, I don't know, you can't smell it, but it smells amazing, amazing. And you really can add a lot more, a lot less. Adding as much herbs and spices as you can to this is really going to elevate it. And for some reason, garlic powder doesn't say it has salt in it, but it's pretty salty sometimes. So, I mean, there's natural ways to add it without directly putting salt on it. But playing with the herbs, have fun with it, because really there's no wrong way to add herbs to this. The only wrong thing you could do is add too much black pepper, which is going to make it taste like very spicy. But adding too much garlic is never a bad thing. Adding too much onions and green peppers and, like I said, cilantro. I love adding cilantro to it. So really having fun and really investing the time to make a good sofrito and adding to it is going to help. Minimizing the salt, I totally understand that. But remember, when you're doing dried beans, you're already cutting off half the sodium from people using the canned. So that's why I always try to say, if I'm gonna add anything, actual type of sea salt or anything like that.
Yes, so somebody asked regarding canned beans, if you want to start with canned beans, which it sounds like you don't want to encourage, but if somebody did want to do that, how would they proceed?
So if you're going to start with canned beans, you open the can and then you're draining that liquid. Some people throw the liquid in. I used to do that, but now because I'm trying to also be aware of, you know, my salt intake and things like that, and it just being in there for a little while, I'll drain that. So you drain the canned beans. You can wash them if you like. Throw the canned beans in there. I would do about three cans for the amount for like this size pot. and then add the water. Add like distilled water or filtered water, then add all the ingredients we had here. What we're just doing is skipping that can step process.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think this will be the last question. Is the difference between a pressure cooker and a normal pot just a matter of how much time it takes?
Yes, yes and no. Yeah, yes. I think it does matter mostly because of the time. Mostly it saves you hours, but as well as I feel like it does cook it thoroughly enough where you really, the pressure is so high that you're guaranteeing that you're cooking the beans to a certain level that it's not going to affect you gas, in your gases. So that's what I've noticed, that if I used to try to cook it sometimes so long and I still would get like an effect. And sometimes my clients, when I do like, when I first started, they were like, I don't know why I'm feeling like I'm so gassy and this and that. And I'm like, well, maybe I need to pressurize it. So I would suggest it's mostly the time, but I think also it does pretty much help the bean really cook thoroughly through. Just make sure, like I said, if you're doing it for hours, keep an eye on it. It's gonna burn the bottom. It might burn the bottom. Just keep going on it. It is okay to not use the pressure cooker. I don't want to fully discourage it because it is such a thing to it's not easy to use. But as you feel more comfortable in using it, you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, I wanna cut this time in half.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Jillian. You're such a
No
wealth of
problem.
knowledge, and this was so interesting, and I think people really got a chance to see and learn quite a lot. We really
Thank you for
appreciate
having me.
being here, and thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Liana's internet went out, so that's why she disappeared. But please sign up for Bronx Eats newsletters to stay connected to us. We'll be having more cooking demo series throughout the summer, featuring again all Bronx-based chefs and cooks. And we also provide many resources to the Bronx community for surviving these challenging times and finding the resources you need. So you can email me directly to receive newsletters at gail@bronxeats.org, or you can just go to bronxeats.org and find out more information. And on behalf also of Plant Powered Metro New York, I'm saying goodbye because Lianna is no longer able to get on, but really thank you so much, and please be in touch. The last thing I would like to say is if anybody is able and interested in making any kind of donation to support these kinds of programs, you can go to bronxeats.org or to the Plant Powered website and go ahead and do that. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the summer, and we hope to see you next week, same time, same place, 6 o'clock, with another great chef. Thank you.